Hello everyone, welcome to this session, physical security of switches. Again, you see security, access control is a big thing, right? You all thinking, oh, security, you gotta do it, you gotta do this. And these are not things that you did like just once and you feel like this is it. No. Remember, each time we touch base on this, we talk of common, and these are all things that needs to be documented on your policies. And those policies need to be reviewed. Most of the times they're all annually, or when a change occur, you have to review your policy annually and update those policies, right? We're talking about the physical access. What of the physical access controls, right? First, they said physical access to the switch should be restricted to authorized personnel only. And that's why if you walk in a corporate building, go to some of their data center, they will tell you, restricted, authorized personnel only. And that's why we are talking about the physical access. So you cannot just get direct entry. Likewise, if you even go to the hospital, not even talking about switches, there are also area where it's also reserved just for authorized personnel, maybe the doctors, the CNA, the nurses, and so on. If you are just a guest like me, you cannot get there, and that's why, or get into, or enter. That's why when you're talking of physical switches and security, we want to make sure that they have that enabled, right? Prevent it again has to do with the principle of access controls. So the switch should be located in a secure area like a server room with restricted access to prevent tampering or unauthorized connections. Yes, if it's not restricted, right? Somebody, not trust anybody getting into your building. Somebody might take it, and that's why you see they'll have man trap to prevent the gating. They can just follow you, and if they find their way in there, of course, they can have unauthorized connection and they can be sending information away like to an external server, right? Do you see? This explain all what we said. Do you see? Yes, it is highly secure and restricted as well. So, but what would the assessor be looking for? The assessor will verify that switches are physically secured with access restricted to authorized personnel. This could involve checking the physical access controls in the server room or data center where the switch is located. And whatever thing that the assessor will be doing, say like the qualified assessor now from PCI DSS, whatever thing that they'll be doing, know that it's been documented on your policy. That's the truth. So your policies are the moment of truth, and it depends on security controls, right? But you working for the organization, how can you do this? So what? How are you even going to test this, right? If they have it on the policy, is that something that you also want to check to make sure that you guys have implemented what you claim you have going on? Right? Even when they're giving the iceberg, because remember, you serve as a liaison with your company, you collaborate, you're collecting artifacts, you be the point of contact where they'll be requesting for artifacts and all those things. I know they might have some networking and all those things. You once they assign to you, you can disciplinarily like assign to a different roles. But don't expect those other folks to give you what you need. And that's why you as a security person, you need to first of all understand security controls as then what kind of artifacts you'll be requesting from your stakeholders. Remember, we also talk about redundancy and failover in the concept of high availability. Likewise, the switch should be configured for redundancy to ensure if one switch fails, other can take over without disrupting network or compromises data security. Assessor will check that failover mechanisms are properly tested and working to ensure continuous operation to network services. Make sense? What will the assessor do? Check if the network has redundant switches in place. Do you see? In a stack or chain configuration to ensure high availability and reliability in case one switch fails. They will also test failover process to confirm that network traffic is directed seamlessly. And talking about firmware and software updates, just as we've mentioned about ensuring that those software are being patched, they are being updated regularly. Likewise, same thing that the assessor will be able to check to make sure that, do you see firmware updates, which should regularly updated with the latest security patches and firmware update to protect against known vulnerabilities. The process or applying updates should be well documented and following organization patch management policy. Yes, it's not just this. You see, everything again is actually a center or come boils down to your policy. right? So whatever thing you all are doing, you don't just go and be patching. You guys have a process in place. It has been documented. And that's exactly what you guys will be doing, right? And also, the assessor will check the switch firmware version and verify that it's up to date. They will also check if there is a formal process in place to ensure that firmware updates are applied regularly and tested before deployment. Okay? And again, this just gives us an example of what we'll be discussing. Do you see a firmware version updated? When was it updated? And each time you been applied that patch, update something, you also logs have been generated. You can go back to that log, you can see. Do you see if it should have successfully updated? You will see the timestamp when it happened. You can definitely check all the information. But summarizing switches and all what we'll do as an assessor. So first, we'll talk about network segmentation, ensure proper VLAN configuration to isolate CDE card data environment from network segment, ensure only authorized devices can connect to switch ports using MAC address filtering and disabling unused ports. Access controls verify that ACL and traffic filtering are properly configured to restrict unauthorized access to sensitive areas. Login ensure that switch logs are generated, reviewed, and forwarded to a centralized login system. Hardening verify that management interfaces are secure and changes to configuration followed formal change management process. Physical security ensures switches are physically secure and access only to authorized personnel. Redundancy verify that switches are configured with high availability to ensure network reliability. And firmware updates ensure that switch firmware is up to date with security patches and follows an update management process. These are just things that we have covered. And now let's see what constitute cardholder data. We did cover this. I don't know if it's a repetition, but I'm just going to go the way my slide is, right? So I don't think I can even go back and start going over the slide. But we will see what we are trying to cover and then how to relate it, under the canopy of PCI DSS. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.